Okay, welcome in, Hope Dealers. We are just about ready for episode 40.
Are you going to make it? You're a little sleepy today?
I am. I'm really
He walked
tired.
in and literally said, I could just go to sleep right now.
Yeah, and we can't see it right now, but trust us when we tell you, there is a fireplace, a mock.
Some serious ambiance going on.
Yeah.
Well, it's not.
Electric fireplace.
It's an electric fireplace. It is real. It's putting off some real heat right now. It feels very toasty in here.
I could just curl up right now and
This
I could
is
take
great.
a power nap.
TJ takes good care of us here.
He really does. Okay, so before we get started with the episode, we needed to check in again with our man Caleb. Mm-hmm. Caleb is going to propose to his girlfriend soon.
Yeah.
He is going to be...
Like next month, right? Something like that?
He is going to be the heir apparent to the Hooten fortune of football magazines.
So I asked her parents this weekend.
You did? Okay.
How did it go?
Now we need the dirt. So set the stage for us. Tell the story.
So I just texted them. I was having dinner with my family last Monday night. So after last week, and my mom was like, just text them and ask them.
Right.
In the evening, you can go over and visit because she's at Washita.
She's at school, yeah.
And so I just texted them, and I was freaking out because I saw the little bubbles. If you didn't have an iPhone.
Right. So wait, so you asked on text, or did you text saying, "Hey, can I stop by and see you?"
I just texted him, her dad, Chris, and said, "Hey, what's a good evening I can come over and visit?" Like they're gonna know. So.
Yeah.
Right.
And he said Wednesday, and I was busy, but it ended up being Friday. Okay. So this past Friday evening, I went over there.
What? No, and so
dive into
Ellie
the conversation.
was
what
not.
happened?
Yeah.
Ellie was not there, right?
No,
she was still
not.
at school.
Yep.
Okay, so
I messaged some of her roommates and said, "Hey, just make sure Ellie has plans Friday night."
Right.
So she was busy, and I walk in, and they were eating supper. And
they didn't even wait for you to eat supper?
No, it was like 8.
Oh, okay.
So they went to like their nephew's basketball game.
Okay.
And so they knew. I walked in, and they started asking how church was, and we kind of had small talk for a minute, and we had the most awkward 10 seconds of silence. Because they were just, like, waiting on me to ask.
Sure. I'm sure they were.
So how did you ask? What did you say?
Well, I just went in and told our story and why I fell in love with her daughter, and I just asked. I was like, can I have permission, your blessing, to marry Ellie?
How many times did you rehearse it on the way over?
I didn't at all.
Really? You didn't go.
It
wasn't. Hey, okay, all right. I'm going to start like this, and I'm going to go into this. Or
I kind of had an idea. I only seeked advice from my older sister.
Oh yeah.
And she was just like, "Speak from your heart. Don't be cliche."
That's a good answer. Yeah.
No, that's pretty good.
So,
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So were you really nervous? And what
I was nervous.
What'd they say?
And I mentioned that to him before I even asked the question. I was like, "Y'all know why I'm over here. I'm really nervous." She was like, "Don't be nervous." And her mom's more like outgoing than he is, and so right when I asked the question if I could have their blessing, she was just like, "Yes, you can."
That's good. That's good.
And so
because he's very. I don't know Chris because he's so reserved and laid back. I've been to the golf tournaments a couple of times. They host a golf tournament when they release the new magazine every year, or at least they did before COVID. And he's like just reserved and quiet and everything. And his brother Chad,
but he
is just
did
Mr.
he did say yes though.
Oh yeah, he told me. He was just like, "Oh, you've had it."
Oh,
well, that's good.
That's really sweet.
He's really witty. A lot of people don't know that. I think around the people he's comfortable around. But yeah, they're really.
So he has no problem of turning the magazine reins over to you.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Well, you're gonna have to impress him now. You're gonna have to be able to, write a. You need to call a head coach of a football team and write up a little thing, just a little mock article.
A little audition.
Yeah, for an audition, just so that.
When Cody asked my dad if he could propose, he took him out to lunch, and they just ate lunch together. And my dad kind of had a feeling. He was like, they had been meeting up for lunch just throughout our relationship while we were dating. Every couple months they'd grab lunch. So this wasn't too out of the ordinary, but my dad was like, I knew something was different. Like it just felt a little different. He seemed kind of nervous. And so he asked, and my dad paused just on purpose, just to mess with him a little bit, and waited. My dad said, he goes, I swear I only paused for like 3 seconds. If you ask Cody, he's like, he paused and looked at me for 3 minutes and didn't say anything, which is not what happened.
That would have been so cool.
He said it felt like the
That's
longest
what you do.
moments of his life.
You just do like this. You do one of these. No expression.
Yeah.
Just go, yeah, that's fun.
My dad said he literally looked at him for like 3 seconds and then goes, yeah, of course.
But
of
3
course.
seconds is a long time.
In Cody's mind, it felt like a very long time. Yeah.
That's a long time. See, I didn't have that happen because my father-in-law dropped hints for months.
Oh, really?
He was just like, hey, don't. That's
got
old school. That's medieval. And he kept using the word
Really?
medieval. Yeah, he was like, that's old. Nobody does that, because I knew I had been around him long enough to know that's his way of saying, don't ask me this. Don't put me in that position. I don't want to be in that position,
Yeah.
so don't put me in that position. Oh, yes, sir.
I think my dad, I think he was very honored, obviously, that Cody would ask because he was like, it's a nice thing to do, But I think in his mind, he's like, Bethany's not going to date anybody that she doesn't want to get married to. So she's dating you. She wants to marry you. So
Right.
I think he kind of knew, we were planning to get married, and asking my dad was a very nice gesture, but it wasn't
Sure.
like something just out of nowhere. Like my dad was not blindsided by it at all.
Right.
I
yeah.
don't think.
I don't think so.
I don't think he was.
I don't think he was either. Okay, so let's close the loop. So now
This is exciting.
So now you have asked permission, not permission, but blessing.
Yeah.
From the family. You've gotten that, and now the next item on the calendar is the proposal
Do you have
itself.
the ring? Okay.
Oh, so 16.
the ring's on its
okay.
way.
So you ordered it? Okay.
And so I just showed them all the kinds of ones that she liked. She would always send me. And so they just made it.
Okay, see, all right, that's fine. We'll talk about that
Stop.
next week. No. I just have some thoughts on that. That's okay. That's
You have
cool.
thoughts on everything.
I do. That's what makes me me.
Yeah, it's part of your charm.
That's exactly what it is. It's a part of my charm. No. Okay, we'll save that till next week on the
Yeah.
pre-show. We'll find it because I've got a few not questions. I just have some concerns and some things I want to bring out for you that you may not have thought about.
I know what you're gonna bring up.
What's that?
You don't like that she's kind of told him what she likes.
Maybe a
Because
little
you
bit.
think that the ring
Because
should completely be
I
designed
think
by
so.
him and a complete surprise.
Because I did. I'm so
No.
proud of. I am so proud of myself.
that's what I'm saying.
No, but see, I'm so proud of
We're
myself.
the ones that have to wear it.
I chose and found the ring. My wife was like, "This is it," and I had not talked to her one time. Anyway, we'll get to all that. I could get into that right now.
I
but
know
we'll
your
get-
soapboxes.
yeah.
This is the thing. I know you.
You know
well
what the
enough.
cool
I know
kids
what
say
that
now?
is.
Instead of soapbox, cool kids said, "It's my TED Talk."
That's my TED Talk. Yeah, I know all your TED Talk topics.
You don't know all of them.
Most of them.
Well,
it's
I can
Suge
su-
Knight. What
I
happened
can
to
surprise you.
Tupac?
Tupac.
O.J.
well, yeah.
Simpson. The O.J. Simpson
Yeah.
trial.
Well, I could tell you, I lived through that.
Women designing their own engagement rings.
Well, yeah, that's
and
3.
what's your other thing that you don't like?
Well,
Oh.
there's a lot of things I don't like.
All the
but-
different Coke flavors, like Diet Coke flavors and all that stuff. When they came out with all those new ones, you were on a soapbox there for a
No,
little while
I
trying all
like
the different.
those.
But that's
I
what I'm
like
saying. You were
those.
trying all
and
the
now they're
different ones.
gone. So that's kind of make me cranky too.
Well, that's another thing you're talking about now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things.
That's a lot of things.
This is
Okay.
exciting, Caleb. We're happy for you, bud.
We are very happy for you. Okay, so one thing I have noticed,
Yeah.
since we're about ready to roll the open, is speak the episode number a little louder. It seems like it gets muffled a little bit.
Okay, I'll try.
So yeah, don't blow the ears out. There are people listening. So
This episode, I'll start yelling. All right.
Welcome to the Steve and Bethany podcast.
It's your weekly dose of hope, encouragement, and a whole lot of fun.
All right, let's get to it.
It's episode 40.
All right, welcome in, everyone. We are glad that you are here, joining us here on the Steve and Bethany Hopecast, and we are, as Bethany said, at episode 40. So excited that you are joining us here all around the world.
Mm-hmm.
Every time we look at the stats, it just blows us away. It really does. It's so mind-blowing to think people are listening to
Very
us
sweet.
around the world. Yes, it is very, very sweet. And those of you that are watching on Patreon, we're glad that you're here. By the way, we are giving away so much stuff on Patreon. I know it's our subscriptions-based stuff,
Yeah.
but come on. When you look at the average length of this Hopecast, it's like 30 minutes. Every week, our patrons get twice that. They get twice the material.
That's pretty impressive.
It is for $5 a month.
And
Come
you know
on.
the video format.
We're
that's
giving
not
away the store.
That's not available for everybody. The video.
It's
and so
not.
If you want to see our lovely faces,
That's
you know,
it.
become a
Yeah,
patron.
it's a multi-camera shoot. we involve the young Caleb.
Ad free.
Yes,
that stuff,
ad free early, and you get it. You know, you get it all the video and everything for $5 a month.
That's pretty
you
impressive.
get in the door with $5 a month.
I feel like
Yeah,
we
I
should
do
really
too.
think about reformatting because the way you're talking, we're giving away too much.
We are. We kind of are.
We're being
It's
too generous.
such a good deal. You can, if you want to check it out, you can check it out. Show notes have got the link for you. StephenBethany.com, or you can go to patreon.com/StephenBethany's Hopecast. Either way will get you in the door.
Well, today is episode number 40. It's crazy that we have made it to 40 episodes, but here we are, very exciting. And today we're going to be talking about singleness after a season of loss, because we've been going through this series about how to glorify God through different seasons of your life. And we've talked about engagement, we've talked about marriage, we've talked about singleness, we've talked about parenting. Last week, we talked about singleness from the perspective of you've never been married, you're looking for that special person to spend your life with. And this week, we're going to be diving into singleness, but kind of from a different perspective of singleness after divorce or after a death of a spouse, talking about that. That's not something that either one of us have experience with, but hopefully we'll still approach it from a place of biblical truth and wisdom and encouragement. And we will be sharing some stories of just different people that we know that have been through these situations. And so I'm hoping that for anybody listening that has been through something like this, it'll be encouraging for them.
I do too. And you're right. We don't have any experience with this at all, thankfully.
Yeah.
You know, but we do have some people that we are close to, the big listeners of the Hopecast, that have graciously shared their stories with us so that you're going to get first-person perspectives. This is not you and I thinking, oh, I wonder what this is like to not have a spouse. It's really first-hand information. So we'll be sharing those stories with you coming up here in just a little bit. But I know that you texted me earlier today. We were just kind of chit-chatting about what we wanted to, open the show with, and you said your dad. Now, your dad is just awesome. I've been friends with your dad longer than I've been friends with you.
That's very true.
So, so what's going on with your dad?
Okay, so you know how COVID has changed a lot for everybody. I think just how we interact with people has changed, but of course masks are kind of like one of the bigger things that are different now. Everybody has to wear a mask. And so my dad was telling this story yesterday while we were watching the Super Bowl. As we're taping this, Super Bowl was yesterday. So he was sitting around talking about all this, and we started talking about masks and all that. And my dad is a pastor at their church. He's an associate pastor at their church. And so he was at church yesterday morning wearing his mask and was, greeting people as they're walking in the doors. And he saw a lady that he hadn't seen in a while. And he knows her pretty well. They're good friends with my parents. And so he was like, oh, my word, hey, how are you? They, hadn't seen her in a while. And she goes, oh, I'm really good. And he said, her hair was as it's always been. And, she just kind of had the same look to her and everything, same height and build and everything as this friend of my parents. And he said, well, how are you doing? Are you doing good? And she's like, yeah, I'm doing great. Oh, well, it's so good to see you. It really is. And he comes and gives her a big hug. He's like, it's really great to see you. I'm so glad that you're here. And she goes, thanks. I really don't know where to go. This is my first time here. And my dad had like a complete case of mistaken identity. He thought that this lady, they've been friends for a long time. He thought that this lady was someone else. And so he goes, I felt terrible and I didn't know what to say. So I just was like, oh, well, the sanctuary's right there. Like, go make yourself at home. And he said, I'm just waiting for the Yelp or the Google review to come in of like, this is a very friendly church. Yeah. They just hugged a complete stranger. Like,
especially during social distancing.
A little uncomfortable. Yeah. But that was the thing. My dad said, he goes, she had a hat on and she had her mask on. So he literally saw 2 inches of her face, eyes, and just thought it was this lady that he knew.
Well, see, okay.
Little uncomfortable.
I have the opposite with story about that. There's an older fella that I know, sweetest man there is. I mean, just salt of the earth kind of guy. And he doesn't handle people's names very well. He knows people's faces and whatever.
Oh yeah.
But so now the mask gives him the perfect excuse. You come talking to him and he goes, hey, who's that talking to me behind that mask? You know, because he's an older guy.
Right.
An older person can get away with that. An older person can say, hey, who are you? I don't know. You got the mask on. You know, come on.
Everybody that's like 70 and under, I don't think.
Yeah, no, I don't think he can get away with it at all.
Yeah.
But he does. And I'm thinking he's brilliant because I know he doesn't recognize everybody even without the mask. And now, look, I don't recognize everybody without the mask either. So I'm not trying to say that.
That does make it a little easier, though.
Yeah, it makes it a tons easier. So I'm wondering, should I be able to try that? Should I say, hey, I can't tell who you are behind the mask? Is that weird coming from somebody my age?
I think maybe a little bit.
See, I think so too. But he's like I say, he's in his,
but
I want to say mid-70s.
I feel like, though, a lot of people are very understanding. Like, if you say, oh, my word, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize that was you, they're fine. They're fine with it. But this is my worry because I think, you know, we've almost abused COVID as an excuse where we can get out of anything with COVID. You know, like you can say, oh, I didn't recognize you. Oh, you have a mask on. Didn't recognize it. Sorry. And you can get away with certain things. I saw a guy on Instagram who made a video about this, and he was like, you want to give me a hug and I don't like you? Pandemic. We can't hug. Sorry.
Right.
Like he said, it's a great excuse now. So you don't want to see somebody's baby pictures of baby, pictures of their kid
or grandkids. Yeah, I get it.
In a pandemic, I don't think so.
I know. Okay, and here's another thing with that too, is, I serve as a deacon at my church,
right?
And so our pastor is always, hey, like, you guys go out there and welcome people. Okay, that's fine, and I don't mind welcoming people.
Yeah.
But my problem is, and it mortifies me because I'll say something to someone. I'll say, hey, it's good to see you. I'll take the opposite route your dad did. Hey, it's great to see you. Just for the first time here, I've been a member here for 6 years.
Oh, yeah.
That thing.
No, don't ask any questions.
Well, I know.
Just say it's great to have you.
I know. See, and that's what's mortified me because my wife just looked at me.
Yeah.
She's always there. It's like, are you serious?
No.
You know this person. And I'm like, no, I really don't. But she says, no, you know this person. So anyway.
Well, my dad was a little mortified giving a hug to a complete stranger, but he said he played it off.
I bet Miss Jane wasn't thrilled with it either.
Well, she thought it was the same lady too.
Oh, she did.
Everybody was confused. Everybody was hugging, hanging out.
Well, it was church. We were having a good time. We were fellowshipping.
My dad said he just tried to play it off of like, oh, we're just a very friendly church. Come on in.
That's
Sorry.
so good.
Welcome. This is your first time.
That's so good.
Oh, goodness.
All right, let's insert the commercial right there. And when we come back, we'll come out and we can start talking about these.
You want me to start?
Yeah, you can start. And we'll do, you can tease the T's for Bibles. And
okay, hang on.
We'll start. I'll set the stage and then you can read Carrie's.
Okay. Well, we are talking today all about singleness after a season of loss, whether that is divorce in your life or the loss of a spouse, whatever your situation looks like. We're going to be talking about that and sharing some stories. Before we get there, though, I want to remind you that we are still doing Tees for Bibles. It's kind of the ministry arm of the Hopecast. And basically, when you go to our website and you buy a T-shirt, the proceeds from that purchase are going to go to buy a Bible for someone that doesn't have it. I forget what the stat is. It's like 90%, right,
that's
of
what
Christians
I've heard.
around the world
Yeah.
don't have a Bible in their own language, which is so crazy and something that I think here in the States we can definitely take for granted. So if you want to do some good and wear a cool T-shirt, go to our website at stephenbethany.com. Go and scroll down a little bit. There's a banner there that says Tees for Bibles. Click on that. We have a bunch of different T-shirts, lots of different designs and colors. Go click on that, order your T-shirt, and you can do a lot of good by sending a Bible.
Amen to that. So we appreciate you checking that out. So right now we're going to be talking about life after loss, I think is what we've kind of dubbed this episode. And we wanted to, when you first came up with the idea of let's do a series about honoring God in different areas and different stages of our lives, and I was like, that's a fantastic idea. And we got to the singleness part, and we did the first episode on singleness, which is available in the archives right now.
Hint, hint.
That was last week, but I thought we needed to do one because singleness is so broad.
Yeah.
You got your pre-married kind of thing, but then there's also the singleness after a loss, and then whether it be the loss of the spouse in death or maybe the loss of a spouse in divorce, because those are real things that happen to people.
Yeah.
And so neither one of us as we said in the first segment, have any experience in this, thank the Lord. But we decided we needed to cover it. So there's the conundrum.
Yeah.
What are we going to do? How are we going to treat this with the respect and the dignity that it deserves, but
Yeah,
still
we don't
be
have
able to-
experience,
So how are we
so-
going to be real with it? So
Yeah.
what we did was we got a hold of some people, and these are folks that are big listeners to the Hopecast, number one, and they've had firsthand experience with this. So we're going to tell you a couple of different stories, and we're going to just let their stories speak. We're just going to be the voice for them.
Well, and Carrie is the first story that we'll share. So Carrie was married to one of your best friends in the world,
Yeah.
Kirk, and they were married for how long?
I think 9 years.
9 years.
Yeah.
Kirk passed away unexpectedly. I still remember when you got the phone call hearing about that. And so that was during a time that Steve and I were working together, and I found out about it alongside you. And that was a really hard thing. Kirk had been a good friend of yours for a long time. And so we reached out to Carrie and asked her just to share some of her thoughts there.
And here's the thing about Kirk. Kirk had waited till later in life to get married.
Yeah.
He was already in his 30s when he got married to Carrie. I mean, he was head over heels with her. I mean, in love. He never really mentioned her, which was always the big sign. Because if he's
Yeah.
dating somebody, it would be like, oh, yeah, I'm dating so-and-so, or, whatever. But he played this really close to the vest. And I didn't know they were getting married till the date had already been set and they were ready.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's how quiet they
it was
kept
really
it.
kind of quiet and
Wow.
everything. And then he had a history of heart issues in his family, wound up passing away after heart surgery. And I mean, Carrie obviously was devastated. And
Yeah.
she was so sweet and so kind to reach out and give us her thoughts on kind of life after loss.
And this is what she had to say about it. These are her thoughts. She said, well, first, I hate that anyone has to go through this. It was the most pain and loneliness that I've ever felt. I'm not a words person, but hopefully you can get something out of my thoughts.
Yeah, she's so
She
good.
said, focus solely on God's truths. That was and is still a big one for me. I did not feel like doing good, being good, or doing anything really. But I stood strong on the word until I felt anything again other than pain. So kind of fake it until you make it, she said. I know that I had this strange urge to search for companionship quickly to try and balance out all the loneliness and pain, but a good rule of thumb is to take at least 6 months before deciding anything major, especially to try to date.
Yeah, let me jump in there.
Yeah.
She's in her 30s. So
Yeah.
let's give that kind of perspective.
Yeah, and I understand that. I think that can kind of be a knee-jerk reaction of I lost this person that's been so important. I need to fill that role again.
Especially since she had 3 kids.
Oh,
you know?
yeah,
So,
completely.
yeah.
Very understandable. She said, once you do try to date, remember biblical facts about rights and wrongs on dating. It's harder to keep those standards after already being married. So guard your heart and your steps through what the Bible clearly states on purity. Remember, it starts with the mind. If you have kids, be very, very thorough on who you let in their lives. I think that is so smart and very strong. She also says, wait on God's direction. Do not force any relationship, even though it seems to make sense. Follow the leading of the Holy Spirit in your life. Guilt is a real thing when trying to date after death. It literally feels like you're cheating on your late spouse. So be prepared for that, and again, combat it with prayer. A revelation I had in a church service was letting Romans 8:28 sink in. God put it on my heart that if Mary could endure the pain and the immediate sorrow of losing her son the way that she did, it was all for the good of us all, then surely, even though I couldn't see it or feel it, and still really don't, I know God is working all things good for me. That's not really a dating thing, but it's a widow thing for me, she said. I hope this makes sense and helps someone. If you talk to someone who needs someone to talk to, I'm here.
Oh,
it
that's
helped
so
me a
sweet.
lot. And she said talking to people who seem to be living a normal life when I was sure mine was over really helped me.
Oh, that's so good. And
so good,
there's so
Carrie.
much truth into that. And you know what we ought to do? Let's post these
Yeah.
in the show notes
Yeah.
so that people can go back and kind
Read back over those.
Read back over them, yeah. This one is another Hopecast listener, Lorinda. She is a little bit older of a lady. She was my associate pastor's wife for years and years, and they were married for almost 50 years. And he passed away. And then so this is her thoughts on being a little bit older, being single after a loss. She said, to begin with, it's like you've lost like you've lost half of you. My identity was his wife. With our girls grown and families of their own, I had to figure out who I was now. I knew I belonged to the Lord. He was all I needed. My head knew that, but my heart told him I didn't like what he had chosen for me. I'd done a lot of praying, a lot of journaling, and my journals were like me praying. I was broken and honest about my lack of understanding of why. She put why in all caps. He was my provider, my position, pastor's wife, my protector. Sounds like a sermon. She says, now what? I watched many grieving spouses, and I told God he would have to help me do this as well. I continued going to church, being a part of everything as usual. Yes, it was hard, but God gave me the strength. I had to find out where I should live. Each daughter wanted me to live where they were. I visited, but never felt like that was where God wanted me. I even went back to South Georgia, where she's from originally. My mom and my siblings thought that I should come back, quote unquote, home, but that wasn't my home anymore either. So until God moved me, I was going to stay right where I was. Very important that I was a stay-at-home wife and mom. Now I had to choose a way to make a living. Nobody would hire me. She said, goodness, I was 58 years old with a good smile and great people skills, but no, I don't have skill, education, or training, quote unquote, or parentheses, a degree. So I went back to school at the local community college, got my LPN. I had a job working at a clinic before I graduated. But even with the life insurance and my job, it wasn't enough to make the house payment. She said, bad timing for a house trying to sell. Anyway, sold it at a loss, moved on into a rental, put stuff into storage I couldn't part with at the time, and God continued to use me. And after about 6 years, I had learned to be content. That's when he brought Larry Fitcher into my life. We had been married. We've been married for 4 years. We live in Springdale, Arkansas. We have a family ministry called Home Builders, and she said Pathway Baptist is now our church home. We are learning about blended families in our own life together. And she said, so here's 3 or 4 things when you find yourself suddenly living at a loss or dealing with a loss. She says, number 1, when you don't understand, trust. And she put trust in all caps. Journaling really helped me in this process get through my thoughts and my feelings. She says, eventually you won't cry every day. So, I think sometimes that's something we maybe kind of gloss over, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Like she said earlier, she lost what she felt was half of her.
Yeah. Well, and if you're
just gone,
I think that's not a bad thing to feel. Obviously, you can't let your whole identity be wrapped up in another person, but I would feel the exact same way.
Sure.
You feel like half of you's been ripped away. I completely get that. Yeah.
Absolutely. She also says stay busy. She said it was difficult for me to do with other couples, made the void seem even greater. But one-on-one, walking, talking, or in groups was fine. And then she said, number 3, wait upon the Lord. She said, don't let your loneliness cause you to, quote unquote, settle just so that you can fill the void, which I think that right there speaks
That's really
volumes.
good. That's really good.
I really do too, because that's the tendency. No matter why you're single, you have that void and you want to fill it with companionship. You want to fill it with something that's going to make you feel, whole.
Yeah.
But what we really need, what we really don't understand a lot of times is I think that's a God-sized hole.
Yeah.
And only God can fill that.
Yeah. Well, I love that she was so vulnerable and so open about that. That's really encouraging. And I hope that if somebody has been through something similar, if they've lost a spouse especially after being married for that long, I think that's a source of encouragement.
Absolutely.
We also want to share Paul's story. So Paul has been a friend of ours for a long, long time, and he went through a divorce last year. And so he reached out with just a few of his thoughts, what he wanted to share with us. This is what he had to say. He said, a lot of single people complain, feel miserable, or get tempted to do things that do not honor the Lord. I did. I had even gotten challenged with my newfound single lifestyle since divorcing. It boils down to one major thing that my pastor showed me that has made a huge difference in my life. I must develop a greater relationship and encounter with the Lord Jesus before entering into a relationship. When I develop my relationship with Jesus, not like any other relationship that you develop, you have to spend time with him. You have to learn him, learn from his word, ask him to reveal himself for a real encounter in everyday situations, enjoy his company and his presence. And when I find that special someone, quote unquote, they will never be able to pull me away from my relationship with Jesus. There will be no compromising. They can never make me whole or make me made, because he has a great hold on my mind, will, and emotions. I will never be tempted away from the human relationship because it would hurt my heavenly relationship more. I think that's a great way to look at it. And honestly, not just relationships in his situation after divorce, but relationships relationships as a whole, whether you're dating and, you've never been married and you're kind of looking forward to spending your life with someone. I think it's the same situation. You have to be close with Christ first and be completely focused on that and have that be your number one priority before you allow another person in. And even then, that person is not your savior. That person's not your identity. It can only be found in Christ.
And it's so hard to do. I mean, we could say that over and over, but when you find that person that enjoys being with you and likes spending time with you, boy, that temptation to settle and that temptation to try to invest your all into that, boy, it's so strong, so tough. But I think you gotta take a step back. You gotta do it, and I think that's the only way to keep it healthy. Yeah. All right, we'll insert the second one right there, and so I think that was good.
That was very good.
I think those were everything was.
They
awesome.
came back with it.
Yeah, they really came back.
I feel like
good.
too they all had like similar themes. Like kind of the same.
And they don't know each other.
Yeah,
none of the
different
three people
stories,
know each other. Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, that is cool. That is
all
cool.
right, you want to open or you want me to?
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
Welcome back, everybody. We're glad that you're spending some time with us here on our Hopecast. And, boy, how great were those stories.
That was so encouraging. And I really do hope, I mean, like we've said before, you and I haven't gone through those situations, but I do hope that for anybody that has, that was just a source of encouragement and kind of a boost that you needed maybe today, just to remind you of the truths of God's word and that he has a plan for your life. It may not be easy and may not be smooth all the time, but it's a good plan, and it's one that will bring glory to God.
Yeah, and I think if you can trust him with your singleness, if you can trust him with the contentment there, that maybe the open door when it happens for somebody to come into your life will be so much easier and so much better. But then here's the second part of that. The flip side of that is once you get content being single, maybe you don't have somebody come along.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
When you can learn to be content that way. So again, it's so hard for you and I to relate firsthand because we're just not there. Thankfully, we've not had to walk that road. But, eventually that will come for all of us. You'll have to probably do it at some point in your life, and I probably will have to as well. So we're so thankful again. We want to say thanks to Carrie and to Lorinda and to Paul for sharing their stories. They don't know one another.
Yeah.
They're just listeners to the Hopecast. They're friends of ours. And so, again, we'll post their stories with their permission on the show notes so you can kind of go over them and read them yourself.
That was the thing, though, that I thought was so cool is that they don't know each other, and yet it seems like there were some common themes there of trusting God and leaning into the relationship that you have with him. And, they all have different situations and different stories behind their singleness, but I think that's so cool that God finds a way to kind of weave these truths through each person's story for all of us to learn from.
I agreed. So we hope you enjoyed that. I hope that was really a lot of fun for you. Coming up on the Aftercast, for those of you on Patreon, with the Super Bowl being yesterday, as we're taping this, Tom Brady won another Super Bowl.
Obviously.
Listen, this is, and again, I know some of you are like, sports, come on, Steve.
Yeah.
Okay, and I get that, but he's played 20 seasons and played in 10 Super Bowls.
That's pretty cool.
You
gotta have some respect.
That's ridiculously stupid. I mean, that's you can't even comprehend it.
And I will say, however you feel about Tom Brady, I was kind of pulling for him yesterday because I think it's good to prove that Tom Brady is good on his own. Like, it's not about the
absolutely.
Patriots. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
'cause
he's good without the whole Patriot vibe going
now
on.
with this Super Bowl win, he's won more Super Bowls than every franchise.
I know.
Every franchise. So anyway, got to thinking about the greatest of all time. Everybody talks about the GOAT. So we're going to do something fun with the GOAT. We're going to put together a Mount Rushmore of the GOATs.
The GOATs.
Coming up here in the Aftercast.
Greatest of all time.
Yeah,
for those that are not familiar with
right.
the acronym.
That's you know what? Because my
People
wife
probably are like, are you guys talking about goats? Like, literally goats?
My wife was like that just the other day. She said, "What do you mean goats?"
Yeah.
And of course my daughter she couldn't believe it. She's like, "Mom,
Greatest of all time.
yes, the greatest of all time." She's like, "I didn't know that."
Well, we're going to be playing that game of like the greatest of all time, our favorite things.
Yeah, and we'll kind of create like a Mount Rushmore, like the
I
four
like
greatest
this.
things. So this will be fun. So we'll do that, and it's just for our patrons coming up here in a little bit. And next week,
Yes.
we're going to be back with you with another episode, and This one, we talked a little bit earlier in the pre-show about, the TED Talks, how that's what the cool kids are saying now when you get on
You have
rants.
a soapbox, yeah.
Okay, so I kind of am a little bit because my wife and I have been talking about just kind of the lack of Bible knowledge that a lot of Christians seem to have. And again, look, I don't want to come off like egotistical or anything, but I mean, look, I feel like I know the Bible a lot, but the bar is kind of low.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And why is that? And we were kind of discussing, and it just kind of kept coming to me over and over. I would listen to something on the radio, or I would hear something on a devotional, or I'd hear a podcast or something. And it really started becoming clear to me why I think we have such Bible illiteracy. So we'll talk about that next week. I'm going to kind of rant a little bit. I'm going to try to do it in a Christ-like way. That's my promise to try.
Is there a way to do that?
Well, yeah, I think so.
Well,
I think there is because
just don't flip the table. You know what I mean? Like, don't go nuts.
Don't go Jesus in the temple, right?
Don't go that far. But I think you can express how you're feeling in a way that's not,
I
judgy.
hope that I can too, and I don't want it to be judgy.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be like pointing fingers downward, like you're bad.
Yeah.
But I mean, I do think it is a judgment thing because it's like this needs to change.
Well, and knowing your Bible's important. It's not like,
And I think,
minor thing.
I think people are being led astray, and
Okay.
I'll tell you why. And again, that's the tease.
All next
We'll
week.
get that all next week. So,
okay. Well, I'm excited to hear your thoughts.
Okay, yeah.
Because you've shared a little bit with me.
Yeah.
And, so I've kind of gotten a little bit. They've gotten a little bit listening.
Yeah.
I'm
Caleb's
excited
over
about
there
this.
nervous as all get out. He can't.
Caleb's
he has
shaking
no
his
idea.
head. He
has
doesn't
no
know
idea.
what we're gonna do.
Yeah. So so we'll.
I'm not kidding. This fireplace here is making me hot.
It really. That's for real. I know. Yeah.
We have a fireplace. TJ brought one in. For those that are not patrons, you don't know.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
TJ set up a little electric fireplace to bring in the ambiance, and it's a little warm. Mm-hmm. I'm a little hot now.
I am too. I'm about ready to shed the jacket. But,
yeah. I'm excited though for next week. I think this will be fun.
I think it will be fun too. So let's close this one out, and because I thought, okay, here's one thing too, just as a little inside baseball, a little peek behind the curtain for everybody. Mm-hmm. I thought what we need to do, especially as good as TJ is to us, and the whole thing, in the way Caleb and everybody, we need to credit them in each episode, right?
Right.
And so I'm listening to us listening to our podcast reviewed,
right.
And I'm thinking we sound too like it doesn't sound like us. We're
it
talking.
not?
Yeah, well, I mean it does, but it's almost kind of too prim and proper. So let's do the credits, but let's have fun with them.
This is where we're different because
What's
I'm
that?
fine to read that.
No, I know. See, that's
and then you're like, no, we need to have fun with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, I'll try to have fun with it.
Yeah.
We want to say a big thank you
because you do so good. You do. Which, by the way, okay, I can't get into this.
We have to wrap the episode
I know we
sometime.
do have to wrap the episode.
What do you want to do?
Remind me for next week, the open of the segment, segment one.
Yeah.
It's you again. Just remind. Just
What?
say it's you again. It's
What do you
all about
mean?
you. It's all about you. I'll tell you off air. We'll talk about it next week. But it's happened again.
Everybody loves me?
Yes. Oh, more than just it's a whole thing. I forgot all about it till just now.
You're being overly sensitive. One nice person probably said one nice thing.
No,
and Steve
this was
thinks
not.
The
This
whole
was
world
not.
loves
This was
me.
not one nice person. This was a whole thing.
Well, I'm excited to hear you rant about that
Yes,
as well. It's
yes.
next week's just going to be a rant fest. It's going to be Steve getting mad. All right. Well, we do want to say a big thank you to TJ Nichols and Caleb Reese, and of course Bluestream Media. BlueStreamMedia.com is the place to go for all your needs whether it's live events or audio production or video production
or fireplaces
that can be brought into studios.
Absolutely.
TJ Nichols, get a hold of him. BlueStreamMedia.com. Again, it's Bluestream, so it's BLU, the fancy way of spelling blue, BLU, streammedia.com. And this podcast is kind of off the cuff.
Yes.
We make it up as we go.
You gotta do. I hope you can't tell very much.
They can tell. Everybody knows. The prep that we do is minimal. And it's not fact-checked by anybody.
No.
We just roll in here and do it.
We do. We turn the cameras on. We turn the tape recorder on, and we say, let it roll, baby.
We try.
Let her rip, tater chip.
We try, but we don't try super hard.
And so we appreciate your subscribing. We appreciate you going to YouTube and listening. Appreciate you joining us on Patreon, the whole thing. And until the Rant Fest next week. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's what I'll just call it. It's just
Rant
Steve
Fest.
Rants.
Steve Rants.
Yes.
I like
I
this.
rant, therefore I am. So we'll do that next week.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Thanks for listening. Have a wonderful week. We'll talk to you next week. Good night, Olive Branch.
Oh my goodness, Stevie.
No, I'm telling you. I knew I forgot something because that's what I wanted to
turn off
open.
the fireplace.
Okay. That's what I wanted to open.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, look at that.
How do I?
How about that?
Look at that.
There's a remote control
Very
fireplace.
fancy.
This
Okay.
is very cool.
Okay, you shouldn't have what? What's the deal?
Well, I should have remembered because, we were talking about what we were going to do for the first segment.
Yeah.
And I had that all planned like for 3 or 4 days. I was
Oh.
like, I was going to talk about it's happened again.
I
But-
think you're just jealous.
No, I am jealous. Absolutely.
Oh, it's not a secret?
No, it's not a secret.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
jealous. I mean, of course I am. So, but anyway, we'll talk about that next week. You'll have to tune in.
We'll get there.
You'll
All
have
right,
to
you
tune in.
ready?
Yeah, hit the button.
Aftercast, welcome in.
Yes.
I'm
welcome
excited
in.
to hear what you have to say next week about everybody loving me.
I know.
Because I feel like people are going to start to hate me because you say everyone loves me.
Well, but no.
You know what I
no.
mean?
I kind of do, but no, that's not the way it is.
No?
No, because, I mean, it's like, I don't know. You are just the greatest of all time. Everybody,
goat.
I know,
I'm the
everybody thinks that. And I'm like, hey, come on. And as like I
You're
say,
like,
I've
she's
got,
not that great.
Yeah, well, see, this is what I tell you off air all the time.
Right.
You need me on that wall because
I don't know what the wall is. What's
the wall. The wall is Bethany. You're not all that great. Bethany, you need to chill and you need to understand. You put your pants on just like everyone else does, one leg at a time.
I know that.
But I'm saying if you don't have me, you could start believing what everybody
Believe
all the
my own
hype.
press?
Yes, because it would be so easy.
I don't think so.
Well,
I think you know me better
Well,
than that.
I know. Cody has to do that too, I'm sure.
Cody tells me that all the time.
Well, see?
I don't need 2 Steves in my life, but I got him. All right. Well, let's get to the goats.
Yes, let's get to the GOATs. So we thought because of honor of Tom Brady,
Mm-hmm.
which by the way, I never thought I'd say that. Honor of Tom Brady. I don't, but
He is. He's the GOAT.
He
He's
really
the greatest
is.
of all time.
He's the best quarterback in football history. I mean, the statistics all prove that, and they've proved it for a long time, really.
Yeah.
But even now, it's just even more underscored. So we thought what would be fun is we could get young Mr. Caleb involved with this as well, and we would do the Mount Rushmore of GOATs.
Yes.
So we could have all these categories like best TV show, best movie, maybe best sports team, and maybe best album,
Okay.
and decide which goes on the Mount Rushmore. Because on Mount Rushmore, there's only 4.
Right.
Right. There's only
Are we
room
doing
for 4.
individual Mount Rushmores? Like this is the best
I
for
think
me?
we need to. I think we need to debate and hash it out.
Okay.
And come to a consensus
Okay.
on them.
Well,
So-
in that case, I'm changing my answer on one
Okay,
of them.
yeah. So one of them is okay. This is not necessarily ones we are our favorite necessarily, but just what we think is the best, and it could
Yes.
be your favorite.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not. I'm just
Yeah.
saying it doesn't have to be.
Okay, okay.
So all right. So where do we want to start? We want to start with what TV show?
Let's do TV show.
Let's start with TV show. Young Mr. Caleb. So
I
what?
have no idea.
You don't know?
You don't have your favorite.
I mean, I could have Googled it. I have a favorite.
well, what do you think? What do you think the all-time best TV show is?
I
This
mean,
is not
it's-
hard.
it's
This is
just
not
a personal
brainstorming.
opinion.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
what
do
is it?
personal
Yeah.
opinion.
For me, probably Shooter.
Shooter. I haven't seen that.
I haven't either. What's it about?
It's about a Marine. Who,
Isn't it like a takeoff of a movie?
Yeah, it is. But they made a TV show out of it. A
Okay.
Marine is set up to help catch a sniper, and they end up like making the whole country think that he's the one that took the shot at the president.
Really? Oh, okay.
Oh wait, I remember. Did the movie have Dennis Quaid in it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I remember this movie. I haven't seen the TV show, but I remember the
Okay.
movie.
So is it streaming? The Shooter?
Yeah,
Is
it's
it-
on. I think
I feel like it's on USA. Is that wrong?
I watched it on Hulu. I think.
I think it's.
Okay.
I
Well,
think
it could
I
it's.
may
be-
have
that
watched
could
it
be
on
USA,
Netflix.
'cause-
I think
no, I watched
so.
it on Netflix.
It was on Netflix?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, so
okay.
The Shooter. Okay. So what have you got?
Mine is Seinfeld.
Okay.
I had-
See, very good. That's a really good one.
I was torn because I love The Office. I think The Office is one of the best TV shows. It's great. But I think as far as like longevity, like episodes that still are hilarious 20, 25 years, whatever it's been later, I think it's Seinfeld. Like, to me, Seinfeld is a show that you don't have to keep up with. You can literally watch any episode from any season,
True.
and it's hilarious
That's right.
because each episode is a standalone. It's a show truly about nothing, and so you can
Right.
just put it on. You don't have to really pay attention to the plot. You can just watch it, and it's funny. And I think it still holds up. Like, yes, it is very 90s. It's, the fashion and even some of the jokes and things like that, the things that they talk about, voicemails and landlines and all that
Sure.
stuff, TV guides, that's very 90s. But it still holds up because it is hilarious. I can watch an episode of Seinfeld and absolutely cry with laughter. It's so funny.
I think so too. I think Seinfeld is right up there. I mean, I would
And
always say,
I don't know how they come up with it. Like the whole episode about how, the one place is selling just the tops of muffins and they're throwing out the bottoms. Like, who comes up with that? It's hilarious.
I know. I mean,
Good stuff.
it's really from the mind of Larry David,
and Jerry Seinfeld.
for sure. But I agree with you to a certain point on that. I think as far as sitcoms go, I think Cheers may be right up there. And here's the reason
I never
why.
watched Cheers.
Okay, but here's the reason why. And people will say, "What are you kidding? Seinfeld versus Cheers?" Okay, here's the reason why. Cheers was able to lose two main characters. It's an ensemble cast, and two of the main characters left, and the show got better. It was a
That's
great
true.
show, and the show got even better. So that's something to be said about that.
That's true.
And it's kind of timeless. Now, but like you were saying, Seinfeld, a lot of the 90s, a lot of the 80s with Cheers,
Yeah.
but still very funny.
Yeah.
It still holds up over time. But
I think that's true.
okay, if you're going sitcoms, that's the way I would go. But I'm going to go more drama.
I know what your
I still
answer
think
is.
Breaking Bad,
Of course, yeah.
it is the best show that's ever been made. Okay, it's not exactly family friendly.
I haven't seen
Okay?
it.
Okay,
Just
here's
a
the
side
thing.
note, I
Yes.
went on vacation with my girlfriend's family.
Yeah.
Right?
And we went to the house where he threw the pizza on the roof.
Really?
On
Oh,
his
you
house
did?
Of Breaking Bad.
Yes, it was filmed in New Mexico.
The house, in Albuquerque.
Yes,
And the house has like security cameras and fences.
I bet.
There's probably some
'cause
crazy
locals told us
people.
people throw pizza
all the time.
Hmm.
That's one of the things that happens. Okay, if you don't know the plot of Breaking Bad, it starts out with just a average run-of-the-mill kind of guy who is a chemistry teacher who feels like he's been kind of cheated out of life a little bit.
Yeah.
And has terminal cancer and doesn't have anything really to show for his life financially, material-wise. And he's got a new baby on the way, and he's got a son with special needs, and he's got a wife that he's going to leave behind because of his cancer. He's trying to find some way to leave them something.
Yeah.
So he goes and finds one of his stoner ex-students, and they start putting together meth. It's supposed to be just a one-time deal to make some money to put as a nest egg.
But
and
he becomes like
he
the
becomes
king.
Scarface.
Yeah.
Yes, he becomes
The king.
He becomes he becomes and it goes from being the original kind of pitch of the show was Mr. Chips becomes Scarface.
Okay.
And that's exactly what happened. And it is tremendously good.
My dad would be on your side on this. My dad has seen Breaking Bad, and he said the same thing. He's like, of course, it's not, a good show for the whole family, but he said solely on the writing and
Yes,
the
the
show,
storytelling.
the development and the storytelling. He's like, it's the best. He said the reason he thought it was so good is because no other TV show or very few TV shows start with a good guy that turns into the villain, and somehow you're still kind of going for him,
That's exactly right, because
and it's confusing.
every time something happens where he makes a bad choice,
Yeah.
you feel for him. You look, it's like, I understand why he did that.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be. It's
Yeah.
the same thing. And I think it's the first ever show to do that, to take a good guy and turn him bad and have everybody come
I'm
away.
trying to think if
loving
there's
it.
like for me the drama that I really love is Blue Bloods. It's got
Yeah,
Tom Selleck in
yeah.
it. I love Blue Bloods. That's
I do
such
too.
a
It's a
good
good
show.
show.
Solely because Tom Selleck is a baller. Like look at him. He's just the coolest guy ever. You know?
Right.
But I love the storytelling and the family element of Blue Bloods, and so I love that show. I don't think I could watch Breaking Bad. I can't do like
I'm telling you.
crazy violence or anything. I
Okay,
can't
well,
do
there's
it.
not a lot of crazy violence. There's
No.
some, but here's the thing.
Okay.
Don't watch it, because if you do, you're going to binge watch the whole thing. You'll be.
How many
You'll get
seasons?
I'm
How
sorry.
many seasons is it?
5.5. Well,
Okay.
I think they divided up the last season It's really one season, but they divided it up and make you stretched it out. But yeah, I think technically it's 5.5 or 6, something like that.
Okay.
But it's really good, and I'm telling you, if you start watching it today, we won't leave the room till next Thursday. You know what I mean?
I gotcha.
So it's one of those incredible shows. Okay, so let's move on. Let's go movie.
Okay.
Best movie. Got an idea? What's
It has to be one of the Star Wars.
You think so?
Yeah.
Original or like the remakes?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just know they were huge in theaters.
Yep.
When they came out.
They were, yeah. Especially, I mean, nobody had seen anything like it.
Yeah.
You know, when those first hit, I mean, sci-fi movies were like, you know, trash can, robots, you know.
Right, yeah.
These were actually stories.
Yeah.
But it just happened to take place in a galaxy far, far away.
Right.
You know, with weird creatures, but they were still the basic human element stories, which was different and revolutionary. You're right.
I'm going to just say, like, that Star Wars movies are the GOAT.
Just
all of them. Okay.
Just as a collection.
Well, see, okay, as a Star Wars fan, they started out, I mean, incredibly high, and they just kind of, you know, once Disney bought them, not so much, and they kind of went downhill.
Yeah.
But I do, man. I saw the second one, Empire Strikes Back. That was the second release, Empire Strikes Back, in the theaters when I was a kid.
Blew your mind.
Blew my mind. Oh, I was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. And I was like 8.
My dad talking about Star Wars, because, you know, he remembers when it came out. And I think it was the second one. I think he either Return of the Jedi or Empire Strikes Back. I think it was Empire Strikes Back. Anyways, he watched it. And his thing was, he goes, me and all my friends that I went with, we were like, how is this a real movie? Like, the special effects were unlike anything else that had come out at that time. It blew their minds.
Yep, absolutely.
My movie is The Count of Monte Cristo. Have you seen The Count of Monte Cristo? Have you seen this movie?
I have not.
It's got Jim Caviezel in it. It's got Guy Pearce in it. And a couple other people. I forget who else is in it. Henry Cavill, when he was like 15 or 16, like young Superman, baby Superman. It came out early 2000s. I think it's one of the best movies because it has everything that you want in a movie. It has adventure. It has revenge. It has some humor in it. It has romance in it. It has pirates. It has swashbuckling. It has hidden treasure.
Pirates.
It does.
I love that.
It has hidden treasure. It has some secrecy, lying, deceit, backstabbing.
Wow, it's a tour de force.
It's everything. It's a great story. It's this guy that is in love with this girl. Some really bad stuff goes down. He gets sent to prison for something that he didn't do. And then he takes on this massive plan and of revenge to get back on all the people that wronged him, and it's incredible.
So is it an updated version of the classic book? Cause
So
it's set in. It's not set like back then.
Oh no, it is. It is.
Oh,
Sorry,
okay,
I misunderstood you. Yeah, so it's based on a book, and it's
a classic.
Yeah, and it's set in the early 1800s, like 1820s.
I'll
maybe,
have to watch that.
Something like that.
I would like
It's so good. Though.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And it's one of those movies that you just, it's a little long, but you watch it and you're like, this has everything I want in a movie. It has everything.
That's fantastic.
The pirates especially. It's great. Yeah.
Okay, I'll switch gears here because I wasn't going to say this, but then some people were like, "You're going to say this because this is the movie you go to. This is what you tell everyone about," and that's Fletch. Love Fletch.
The amount of times that you quote Fletch to me is insane.
It is. It really is. It was one of my favorite comedies growing up, and it really does have a pretty good story. And it's an investigative journalist, and he works for a newspaper, and he's undercover, and this guy comes and asks him to kill him.
And he doesn't know why.
No, he doesn't know why. The guy tells him he has terminal cancer, and the insurance won't pay if he commits suicide, so he needs this guy who's just supposedly just a street bum that nobody would know, nobody would miss, whatever.
Yeah.
Come in, do the deed, and leave. Right. So Fletch doesn't buy it. He's like, "What's the deal with this?"
Yeah.
So it's the whole thing is to finding out why this guy, and he has to go through, and he uses a bunch of silly disguises and a bunch of silly stuff to impersonations of different people.
Right.
And hysterically funny.
Very quotable.
Very quotable, very, very good movie. And it's one of my favorites. I know every line to it. It's one of those movies that I watch. And here's the thing. I've tried to introduce it to people, and it's not streaming anywhere.
Really?
No, I can't find it anywhere. And it's very disappointing. So I'm ready to like show you and like my daughter Amber and some other people who've never seen it because it's so funny. It really is a good movie.
And based on how much you've quoted it to me, I really do feel like I need to watch it because I'm not kidding. Half of our conversations have at least one Fletch quote in them.
Yeah, I know. So there you go. All right. So what's next? We got.
Let's do an album.
Ooh, let's do an album. Okay. You want to start? Album?
I can start. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I'm a little torn because I am torn between Continuum by John Mayer, which has like all the hits on it. It's so good. I love that album. I also really like the Dreaming Out Loud album from One Republic because One Republic is a little bit nostalgic for me. That was the first band that I got into solely because I liked them. Like a lot of my
crush
music,
on them, right?
No.
Oh.
But a lot of my taste of music growing up was influenced by my siblings. Like whatever they were listening to, I would listen to.
Right.
So One Republic was the first band that I heard some of their music on the radio and was like, oh, I kind of like this band, and did research, got their albums, all that stuff, and actually liked them because I liked them.
Oh, very good.
The Continuum album from John Mayer is my husband's favorite album. It's one of my favorite albums, and it's one of those records that I feel like you can put on and you can just like let it play. You know what I mean? There's not a song. There's not a song on there that you're gonna go skip. You know what I mean? It's just great all around. So that's probably those two. I don't know if I have a favorite.
What about you?
Well, I know the top most grossing album of all time, so it kind of made it. But it's Thriller by Michael Jackson.
Oh yeah.
Really, you like the Thriller album? I actually bought the Thriller album.
Did
you? It's one of the few like R&B albums of the 80s, because I grew up listening to country music when I was a kid.
Right.
So there was very few of those albums that I bought that wasn't a country record. That was one of them. I mean, everybody had it. So
what about you? What would you say?
There's a couple. I mean, just for classic, I think probably the Beatles' White Album.
Oh,
is just so good. I mean, they did so much different, a lot of different experimentations and a lot of different things. It's really just
good stuff there.
It's a good stuff that you can listen to and pretty much know all the songs that are there. And there's a lot of Beatles albums that fall into that category too. But also for something more of my generation, and this is kind of going off a little bit because he was such a phenomenal superstar, and that's Garth Brooks. He had so many commercial success albums, Rope in the Wind, and what was the other one? No Fences, those were ginormously huge. But the very first album that he released, Garth Brooks, it's just called self-titled Garth Brooks. It is as good a country music album as there is. I really think all 10 songs are so good. They're not the commercial slick sounds, because you could obviously tell after that first album, Garth started going toward radio-friendly, hit songs, which, hey, more power to you.
Go for it, yeah.
He was about commercial success, and he got it. But that first album to me was so good, and it still, I think, stands up the test as far as all 10 songs. If you're looking for a good, straight-ahead kind of country music album, I think that one's really good.
I think that's pretty good. Yeah, especially, too, I feel like somebody that changed country music for a lot of people, where he was a true showman. Like,
oh, for real.
I mean, obviously, George Strait is somebody that can sell out an arena sitting on a stool, which is impressive. Right. And, tons of respect his way. But I think Garth Brooks was a little bit more showy and kind of...
Oh, for real. Absolutely.
Entertaining in that sense.
And that's the thing, is he was... not only on the top of the country charts, he was the top of all the charts.
Yeah.
So it was so cool to see these, he
was like OG Taylor Swift.
Yeah, you look at you look at the top of the charts, and it's like MC Hammer and Vanilla Ice at 3 and 2, and Garth Brooks at number 1. It's the most selling album. So that was always cool for a country music fan. And then if you're going to go Christian genre, I still think
Stephen Curtis Chapman.
I think Stephen Curtis Chapman, and I think The Great Adventure. I'm sorry, not The Great Adventure is a good album. Speechless, I think, is the album that followed that up.
Which one is he doing? Like going like this?
That's Speechless.
That's Speechless. He has a turtleneck over his face.
And to me, every song on that is so good. It stands the test of time too. So I really enjoy Speechless.
What about sports teams? Let's do that.
Sports teams. I guess my favorite sports team. I don't know how else you could qualify it other than, I mean, I have followed the Dallas Cowboys all my life.
Right.
You know, and they've won, you know, they haven't won as many Super Bowls as Tom Brady.
Not quite.
But they have won 5. And so I think that's, you know, they're America's team and they're worth like a $4 or $5 billion.
Insane.
I mean, it's insane. So
yeah.
I would say the Dallas Cowboys.
Okay. On a smaller level, obviously they do not have the success of the Dallas Cowboys, but the Nebraska Cornhuskers are my team because my family is from Nebraska. My dad, as a kid, watched all the games. We're huge, huge fans. The past, 20 years have been a little rough for us. We're not doing great. But it's one of those things that, I think even though we haven't done great and haven't won all these national championships in a while and all this stuff, the pure atmosphere of being at a game and the fan base alone, I think, is what makes it a great football program. And I am biased, and I will say that. But for me, it's one of those things that's just you can spot a Nebraska fan. You can sense it. There's a connection, there's a family element to it, and there's just something special about being from Nebraska and loving the Cornhuskers.
And there is a lot of people here in Arkansas.
I know.
That follow Nebraska because I see their license plates, I see the decals on the back of their
cars. It's a
little
little bit of a cult. I'm not going to lie.
It kind of is. And I guess, what is it when the stadium is full? It's like the 3rd largest city in the state or something like that.
I think it's the largest city.
It's something crazy like that.
Something crazy. Yeah. I will say I've only been to one game in Lincoln, and I wish I could be at more. But if you're not wearing red on game day, people look at you funny. That's right. How on game day in the morning, my family we would go out to breakfast and we'd all have our gear on and everything. You don't see anyone that's not wearing red, and if you do, you're kind of like, are you not cheering for them? What's going on?
Really?
Yeah, it's a funny thing to see and experience, but it's cool.
Well, see, that's the thing. As I grew up in Louisiana, and now you go down to Louisiana, and it's all purple and gold for LSU. Right. When I first moved to Arkansas, I moved to the very southernmost part of Arkansas. I mean, as far away as you could get from the university as it'd still be in the state.
Yeah.
It was as if Fayetteville, the campus, was there where I was at. Yeah, everybody had Razorback stuff, and I had never seen experienced anything like it.
Yeah.
And Nebraska is that way too. And I think those are the only 2 schools that really are, for decades and decades, just the program, and that everybody
I think too,
follows in the state.
Nebraska really, that's the only team that we have.
Well, it's the same
really.
That's the same thing for Arkansas.
Yeah, same thing. So it's kind of this is the team, and if you don't support them, you're kind of a weirdo because this is what the state has. So you may as well cheer for them, kind of thing. Right. But yeah, it's definitely a fun thing to be a part of.
All right, what about you, Caleb?
Cowboys.
Very good. So okay. So tell me, who are your memories of the Cowboys? Who's your quarterback from the Cowboys growing up?
In my era?
Yeah, in your era.
Awful, but Tony Romo.
That's not awful. See,
I kind of like Tony Romo.
Romo,
I feel for him.
I do too.
See, okay, here's
he
the thing.
Good seasons.
It's never been Romo's fault. Romo,
he never had an offensive line.
In the year that he did, they got close to winning. They got really close, and they lost. But he never had the supporting help because Romo would go down, score a touchdown with a couple minutes left to go in the game, put him ahead, and then all of a sudden the defense gives it up, and now they're expecting Romo to win with a couple of seconds left, and he's got to just heave the ball. That's not good. So I've never been. I've always been a Romo guy.
Who were you going for yesterday? Were you going for Chiefs or were you going for the Bucks?
I was going. Actually, I didn't care, but I figured Kansas City was just going to blow the doors off.
I really thought they would too.
My thought was, though, but with this little exception, if they got it close in the second half, Brady was going to find a way to win.
Right.
Just because he's Tom Brady and you get him that close, he's not going to lose a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Unless Eli Manning's the other quarterback.
Yeah.
But no, that's what I thought. But it was total opposite.
Yeah.
Total opposite. I mean, they just dominated them.
I was pretty surprised. I will say I paid more attention to eating my guac than the game, but I feel like it would be hilarious to do like a bad lip sync or something.
For sure.
Of, you know, all the camera angles. There was one time where I don't know who he was yelling at, but Tom Brady was yelling at somebody on the field and was going after him, going like this, like pointing his finger and yelling at him. And I thought, you know what I bet he's doing? I bet he's like, hey, I hope that all the teams have fun. I hope we just all have a great time and that, you know, we just have a good time together. That's what this is about.
They'll do one of those.
I think that's what he was doing.
I think they will too. No, but I thought it was so good. And see, my church has church on Sunday nights. Do y'all have Sunday night church?
Not right now.
Not right now. So, okay. So I didn't get out of church until like halftime.
Oh, really?
And I went over to my uncle's house, and he's got a brand new 86-inch TV.
What?
Yeah, you can see it from like,
86 inches?
86 inches.
Good grief.
And so, I turned the radio on immediately.
Yeah.
When I got there, or when I got in the car.
Yeah.
So that I could, know what's happening when I get to this place where we're going to watch at his house. And so I get there and I hear the score. It's going right into halftime. So I hear the score and I walk into his house. I said, "Yeah, man, they're dominating, aren't they?" He's like, "I haven't watched it yet." He had waited on us to come out, and so we watched. We backed it up and watched the DVR.
Oh, that's cool.
And zipped through all the commercials. We missed all the commercials, missed the weekend and the halftime, missed everything.
Okay.
So we watched the whole Super Bowl in like, in
like an hour.
Like an hour, yeah.
That's
so
nice.
It was great.
That's a good way to watch the Super Bowl. If you're going to do it, skip all over all the stuff you need.
It was fun. And plus, we didn't talk about this a whole lot, but, LSU's my team too in college. And it was pretty much an LSU alumni game yesterday. Between the two.
True.
Between the two teams, there was just tigers everywhere. So it was like pulling for it was like rooting against one of your babies.
Yeah,
you can't do
you
that.
can't do it.
So no, it was good. So anyway,
well,
those
are the goats.
Yeah, those are the goats. We appreciate you watching and enduring through this with us.
Enduring with us.
Well, but we do. We appreciate you. We appreciate your support. We say it all the time, but we really mean it. That man, thank you for believing in us.
Thank you, guys. And especially if you have, I think, a small business or anybody that you know that has a small business and wants to advertise with us, be sure to reach out. We would love to talk to you guys. Or really just if you think anybody would enjoy the podcast, spread the word, get it out there. We could always use your support. So thank you guys so much.
See you later.